All right, we are live. Good evening, everyone. And that was really hard for me to say because usually these episodes are in the afternoon. I'm 35 and I'm no longer a night person, but yeah, so this is a change. Um, I'm Crash, the Odd Crapple, as most of you know. This is the lanky. Wow, that was an old podcast. Never mind. This is the Ranting and Rolling podcast. See, the evenings got me all messed up. The Message of Music series that I have chosen to start this month. And I actually was thinking about it today. It's the final episode of this month. So that's definitely something that's a little bit bittersweet. As most of you know who've been keeping up with the episodes thus far, um, the whole purpose of this series uh, is dedicated to the memory of Chester Bennington and to Linkin Park. We're running the series from July until mid-October. October 18th is the 20th anniversary of when Linkin Park released their debut album, Hybrid Theory. So I wanted to make sure and pay tribute to, Chester and be able to pay tribute to, the release of that album because that kind of really defined a lot of my teenage years and into adulthood for various reasons. Um, and I think with a lot of different music, you relate to it differently depending on what's going on in your life. I definitely related uh, very hard to uh, Linkin Park. So that was something that, I didn't expect me at 15 to relate to. But, things happen and, it got me through. Fast forward to when I was just 21 and we have the episode that we have today. Very close friend of mine, Jennifer. Uh, I met Jen when I was in my drinking days, although I probably should phrase that differently, at some point. Um, I've always been very drawn to music, so I think it was only natural when I was, 21, I was going to go out and see what the local music scene was like because all of my friends who were older were talking about it, and I wanted to see kind of what was out there. Growing up where I did, you kind of wanted to find an escape because that area just was odd. Like it was, there was nothing that area offered. So it was nice to have, the local music scene and just kind of to escape everything else for a weekend, so to speak. But I, this is bad because I don't remember. There are certain things I don't remember because I did drink too much.
We all
But
did.
but I think that there is something very personal about the local music scene when you have local bands who actually know what it's like to depend on their fan base. Because especially up in the Northeast where I grew up, you had bands that came from all around and, they had people that followed them from state to state. And I think that was something that was, it really shocked me because it was something I had never experienced before. Now, uh, you were in a band called Prima Volta. Explain to me being, stupid. Explain to me, do you know if there's any meaning to that, though, like that name?
Oh. Okay. I mean, it's been so long that I have not had to explain this in a really long time. And I kind of forget everything, but it was like some type of a musical connection with being, I feel like something about like a first time or so, there was a musical connection.
Yeah.
And it was hard for like everybody to like figure out how to even say the name and whatever. But I just remember us going through like a million different names
Hmm.
and then like learning the meaning, which I didn't know you were going to ask that or I would have looked it up. Learning the meaning of this one, then it was like something about like a first time or something like that in music. I
Well,
can Google.
there was a unit in seventh grade that I did in English class called word parts,
Mhm.
and it broke down, various words into word parts. And if I'm not mistaken, prima is a word part of the larger word primal. So it's or primitive, I guess, which means first.
Could be.
Or um,
Hmm. Like, let me
so
look.
I would think that, in my interpretation, it would mean something akin to, the first time
Right.
or the first experience with music, because, volta is probably the root of voltage, obviously. And, you talk about voltage when you're, talking about the sound setup when you're dealing with music.
Yeah. It says definition of at the first time. Used as a direction in music to perform the first time but omit at the repetition.
Interesting. You learn something new every day.
Thank God I wasn't like way off on that. That would have been weird.
We would have just rolled with it. Um, Now, how long before you and I met? Because obviously I turned 21 in 2006,
Mhm.
and it's really bad that I had to stop and think about that. Um, how long had you guys been performing before you and I met?
I think it was about 2 years,
Oh
maybe
wow, okay.
three. Yeah.
Um, do you remember what you know what the catalyst was to you guys getting together? Like, did you guys know each other previously,
Mhm.
or was it kind of what we grew up hearing with band members answering ads in the paper? Was it that
Right,
kind
right,
of
right.
scenario?
Um, so at the time, I was dating the drummer when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was going to music school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, well, that's how we met. So what I didn't know was that I was performing a solo in one of our concerts because I was a
Mm-hmm.
jazz major.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did not know that the rest of the band came to watch it, one of them being the drummer's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they came and watched me perform. And then he brought me to one of their practices. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was just like watching a practice. Like I didn't have any idea that I would become a part of the band. Um, and then was like approached then about joining. And they were looking for like a lead vocal. And then I found out that they kind of watched my solo, like whatever, like in the concert, and were interested in me. Yeah.
That's cool. Um, Now, going back to your early years, do you know kind of what drew you to music? Like, was there something that you can remember from, you being younger that drew you specifically to music?
Right. Um, I don't remember like one specific thing. I just remember literally always being drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then using it like in my room, like creating tapes or like listening to music and like making music videos when that whole thing came out in my mirrors and stuff like that, and just like jamming out. I just always seem to have loved it, really. There's not like one shining star moment.
Yeah. Do you remember what kind of music you were drawn to at the time? Because I know we're not too far off in age, but was it like, you know, because I think it probably, if I'm not mistaken, it probably would have been like the Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, New Kids on the Block days.
1000%. Like you just hit the nail on the head. Like that is it. That is it. I still listen to Madonna. My child knows some of songs like in my car.
Yeah.
Madonna, and Cyndi Lauper. I saw her live one time and cried because I was like, "Oh my God, I've loved you since my whole life." Yeah, New Kids on the Block. Oh my God, yes, that's like the beginning. And like Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, back in the day, like all that. Like I used to love Expose and like all these. Yes.
Yeah, I'm really starting to feel old because there were some of those people I forgot
that you
about.
Didn't even know. Oh, well, I have heard of them because that'd be weird.
I actually, this will probably make you feel old. I just, a couple years ago, I got to see Vanilla Ice and Coolio.
Yes. Like who doesn't love some Vanilla Ice though?
Right? That to me was that was something.
Yeah.
And actually on my Facebook, you might have actually seen it when it happened. I actually got a picture with Coolio. He actually walked right by me, and all of a sudden, you know, without even any, you know, coaxing or provocation, put his arm around me, and my mom took a picture of us because my mom went to the concert with me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Speaking of going to concerts, I'm curious, do you remember what your first live show was that you went to?
Do. I do. It was like for a concert was Alanis Morissette, and I was supposed to watch her again this summer, but it got pushed off till next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alanis Morissette, my brother brought me.
I'm kind of jealous because Alanis is somebody that if I was in a relationship, I would completely leave that person for Alanis.
For Alanis. I know. I've loved her. I literally, like the other day when I was in my little home gym, was listening to Alanis. Like her new stuff is acoustic, and I love it. Yeah.
Around the concept of the fact that, you know, this whole series is dedicated to Linkin Park and Chester Bennington, did you get a chance when they did the Hollywood Bowl tribute show for Chester after he passed? Did you get a chance to see that live stream on YouTube?
I didn't because I'm in
Alanis performed with them.
Oh, really?
Alanis performed with the surviving members of Linkin Park, and it was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to watch that.
It's a 3-hour concert, and I think I've seen it. I watch it 3 times a year, I believe. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's well worth sitting there for 3 hours watching it.
Yeah.
Just because you just get so caught up in kind of just realizing how strongly you connect to, you know, their music and how real the message is. And
yeah,
what's weird to me is when you get a voice like Chester's, you don't ever think that, and I mean, this is probably true for some of the, you know, the artists we grew up with. You get a voice like Chester's and you don't think that anybody can do their music, you know, any justice.
Right.
but I would say almost every artist they had lined up for that tribute show nailed it. And it's,
Nice.
even though I wasn't there live, it's probably one of the best concerts I've seen.
Yeah.
Um,
Good. Well, good, because that's the only way it should be for like a tribute, right? Like for him.
Absolutely. And did you grow up listening to Bush?
Yes, I did. I literally, I still follow Gavin on Instagram, and he does lives sometimes. And I'm like,
They had
babe,
their
to my husband, I'm like, Gavin's talking to me right now. He's talking to me. There's
they
nothing
had,
like gasoline. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
that's fine. They actually Bush just actually did a live stream concert on YouTube last week, and I just sat there in awe. But
Yeah.
Gavin's another artist that participated in the tribute show, and to hear him singing Linkin Park songs,
Yeah.
it's a whole different sort of feeling you get, and it's like I did not know he was capable of that.
I'm gonna have to watch the show now. I did not see it.
I don't know. I don't know how strongly you are connected to Linkin Park,
Yeah.
but depending on how strong your connection is to them,
Mhm.
make sure you have tissues.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. It's not an easy show to watch,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a show that's worthwhile, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Those emotions. Those
yes.
emotions.
What was your favorite concert that you've ever seen?
Oh my heck. Um, I don't know. I've seen some like really good ones.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people to watch live though is Chris Stapleton.
Mhm.
He's very simple, but just his voice and his abilities and the way that he hits me like deep down
Mhm.
in there, like there's something about his music that gets me.
Yeah.
I saw Pink, and she's been one of my favorites for a very long time, and she's just incredible, but on like another level, right? She's like
Yeah.
the showman and talent.
Hmm.
Um, and Lilith Fair back in the day was like my favorite. I
Oh
cried.
my! Wow, I completely forgot about Lilith Fair. Um,
Yes.
I guess the Vans Warp Tour is coming back, even though they tried to cancel it, or they were gonna cancel it,
Yeah.
entirely and get rid of it. But I guess they decided to bring it back. So I want to see who they have lined up,
That'd be
because there's still part of me that kind of likes the old 90s and early 2000s punk bands.
good.
So I kind of want to go just to see that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, if they had another Lilith Fair, I'd be like, sign me up. Still listen to everybody.
Yeah. Um, who would you say, if you had to pick an artist, who would you say encouraged you to start singing? Like, was there anybody that you ever tried to model yourself after vocally? Because I mean, when
Um,
I remember when you would perform at Hot Shots, like you would generally embody whoever you were singing. Like that,
mhm.
there was never any deviation from between you and the actual, the original song.
Yeah,
So it was very, very close.
yeah. Um, I think the like starters for me at like the time when I was like putting myself out there, right? Because I don't remember like way back, but
We're
I'm too
not
old.
that old,
Too
Jen.
old for that. But like when I started like putting myself out there more, because I'm very shy when it comes to my voice. So it was hard to like get me to sing in front of people.
Yeah.
But it was like, and it still is, like Cheryl Crow, Tori Amos, Fiona Apple, Sarah McLachlan. Like
Yeah.
it was like that crew. But Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston were a couple of the like big players of mine because I used to have like this amazing range. So I'd always be like,
Yeah.
they made me want it, I guess.
Yeah. Can you remember out of the songs that you covered, can you remember any that were your favorites to do, and if there were any that were more difficult for you to do?
Yeah. Oh my God. When we no, this is like so weird. It's like the gamut. People like used to love when we do like Jane's Addiction, like Jane Says, just because it was like fun, or like Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, like things like and those were like fun and like easy for me. I can do those. But then like when we were playing some like harder stuff, oh my God, I'm like thinking about like Buck Cherry and stuff like that. This is so funny. I don't know. There was some, I don't remember the names because I'm the worst. Like even when I was singing them, I didn't remember the names, but
Yeah.
we used to do some like harder stuff, and it was all like guy vocals. I sang a lot of like guy vocal stuff, and it was harder. It's easier for me to do the more like emotional or like bluesy type stuff than the like I'm like this hard man stuff.
Yeah, the one thing that I always noticed, once I started going out to the bars and seeing a lot of live local acts, the one thing I always noticed is female singers were the only ones that had the ability to sing certain male ranges. Like most notably, I think about Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Like literally, yeah. I've never heard another guy be able to sing Axl Rose like Axl Rose.
Right.
But most of the female singers that I've heard can absolutely nail it, and it's like either Axl has a very unique voice for a guy, or there are just male singers that don't raise themselves up to that standard.
Yeah. He was so like different though, because I feel like he was able to be, sorry, I have hair in my mouth. I feel like he was like able to do like some like emotional stuff though, with being like a rocker, where some males don't like showing that side and like doing like ballady type stuff.
And actually the thing, another thing that's going to make us feel really old because it doesn't exist anymore. Back when they had the Behind the Music on VH1 of Guns N' Roses, they talked about the fact that a lot of the other members of the band didn't like when Axl would go in the direction of doing a ballad. It looked like they were known as the most dangerous band in music. Yeah. And here you have Axl doing November Rain, it's or
so good though. It's still so good.
It is, but it's like you have all of these, you have all of these hardcore rockers,
testosterone,
and you've got Axl wanting to do, November Rain or Don't Cry, or just the softer stuff, and it's like he had the ability to do it, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was such a deviation from the majority of their catalog.
Yeah, for sure. That's why they stand out. But like now, look, like what do we still know? Like I'm literally gonna get off this and be like, oh my God, you know what I need on my phone today for like when I'm out and about or like running or whatever I'm doing. Like I'm gonna get some Guns N' Roses on there.
Yeah.
And those are the good stuff. Like that's the good stuff. You know what I mean? I love 80s, 90s stuff though.
Explain, like, I'm wondering what the difference in dynamic is between a local unsigned act and a national act. So I'm curious, are there nationally known musicians that you've met that you can kind of compare, your experience to maybe theirs as far as what the difference between like the atmosphere is with a local act versus a national act?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really around a lot of national acts, and if I was, they were typically like older. It was like
Yeah.
the band like Tesla and stuff like
Oh
that.
my, yeah, wow, yeah.
So I don't really know like what their lives were like, The only one that really I had some like contact with was like Aaron Lewis, because he was from my area and stuff like that. So talking about Stained and stuff. But
because I remember, what was it, 2017? It was actually the same year I saw Guns N' Roses for the first time, because I got to see them live down here in North Carolina, because it's like 3 hours away from me. It was the very first time a music act had performed at the college in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was Guns N' Roses was their inaugural act. It was that was something wild. But the same year, I got to see TLC.
There's another good one.
that was a show. But I also got to meet them, and let me tell you, that it was an experience.
Right.
They are two of the most down-to-earth individuals I have ever met.
Jealous.
And they are just as emotionally connected to their fans as their fans are to them.
Really?
Yeah.
They
are the most genuine people I've met.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm jealous. Another one on my list.
I don't know. I think they had actually stopped touring before COVID. I think they decided not to tour anymore because they released that song Girl Talk, I think it was. Or was it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't Girl Talk. It was because that was off TLC 3D, I think. They released a song with Snoop Dogg. And then after that album, they decided that they weren't going to be doing any touring anymore. So that was kind of disappointing, but I'm glad I got to see them.
Were they like, we've made it?
Oh, yeah. But I think what it came down to was they realized what was missing not having Lisa with them.
Yeah.
And as much energy as they put into the act, even with her not there, I think they still felt like there was too much missing.
Yeah.
And they really couldn't put forth the show that they wanted to, because a huge element of their existence was missing.
That's a big energy, and you can't fill those shoes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you remember a favorite performance that you had with Prima Volta? Like, do you remember
that I did?
Yeah, like a specific venue that, I mean, other than probably Hot Shots, but do you remember like a venue that you guys enjoyed being at, or a specific performance?
I mean, I was gonna say Hot Shots, but if we're taking that off the table, then
because I think that's kind of a given, being that that's where our story begins.
Right. That was one of the funnest places to go, though, because it was like a weekend, and like we got to like party in hotel rooms and stuff. Everywhere else, we just had to go back home.
Yeah, so you really got to live the rock star life, because you were traveling out. You were traveling out of Massachusetts up to New York.
We did like Connecticut and Rhode Island and stuff too, but like it was always like close enough where you can just like go home. But when we came to New York, it would be like party like a rock star and like ruin the hotel room type of idea.
You never ruined a hotel room, did
I
you?
didn't ruin anything, but I may or may not have acted up in, in a couple, like ripped up like a phone book or something. I was trying to prove a point to all the boys, per usual.
That actually brings up a good question. What is, um, if you can explain it, what is kind of the difference in dynamic of a female lead singer with an entirely male backing band
Mhm.
versus an all male kind of setup?
Yeah.
Is there a different dynamic, or is it kind of an equal thing?
Um, I think I mean, I've always been kind of viewed as like one of the guys. Like I can
Mhm,
typically kind of just go with the flow and like
mhm.
be cool with whatever, right? I'm not like super emotional or antsy around certain stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that me becoming a part of the band changed some dynamic just because I'm bringing, even though I was not, especially back then, overly emotional, but I
Mm,
brought emotion to the table because that's how I want to sing, right? So they were more like hardcore and like darker and whatever. And then when I came in, I tried to fit into the puzzle that they had already had laid out, and it just
mhm,
it didn't connect until I brought like my energy and my music
mhm.
there, you know. So I feel like they were just trying to be like, "Ooh, yeah, we're tough and whatever." And then I'm like, wait a minute, but I sound good doing this. I can pour my heart out on the stage. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't just
Yeah.
trying to be like, yeah. So I think I just kind of brought that like emotional part to it, but also, I mean, they were all patient. I wasn't, I was really shy to like come and sing, literally, even in front of my band. So when there
Wow.
was like a new part, um, that I'd bring, it would be like hard to me to like, here's what I have. And so they'd be patient, be like, no, come on, you can do this. And then they'd like start playing and just kind of like go and like
Yeah.
talk me into it. And
So
I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do.
they would encourage you just as much as kind of you would encourage them. I guess you could say.
Yeah, in different ways for
Yeah.
sure. You know, yeah, there was some give and take there, and learning about one another's strengths and weaknesses, and then we started rolling with it. And when we started rolling with that, then things got good.
Hmm. Now you, at least from my memory, you were one of the few acts that I knew of that were unsigned, that weren't just a cover band. You actually wrote your own music and recorded it.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel that set you apart from other cover bands, so to speak?
Yeah.
Do you feel that that made you guys stronger as a band, and did it make you? Do you feel like it made you maybe more appealing to venue owners or promoters and such?
I definitely think it strengthened us just because you work so hard to bring that to the table and to like really work together to create something
Mm-hmm.
awesome, you know. Um, so that's like taking a whole bunch of our like all our different personalities and like meshing it together
Mm-hmm.
to have a good sound, right? And it took like years to like when I think back or I listen back to some of the music, I'm like, we were just like they're doing one thing, I'm just like adding stuff in, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
then once I meshed, it was good. But I think that there was like a good balance with us. So we would do a bunch of covers and then throw one or two songs in and then a bunch of covers and that, you know what I mean? So I think that people really like that, especially the people that started following us, you know, because everybody loves the covers, especially like you have to like speak to the masses when you're doing it. So it was like, what was popular then? What's going to get people up and moving? And then you got to take it down and do something emotional and bring it back up. But the people that started following us and whatever, when they started like singing our songs, I think that was cool for us. That was cool for them. I think that the like owners of the bars are like, shit, they're like, people are like following these people. They're even like coming like to New York, staying in hotels just to watch a show. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think that, yeah, it helped.
Do you explain to me what the initial feeling is when you have some like when you have a group of a group of fans, you know, singing your stuff, like, because an artist is very, at least real artists, because there are artists that don't write their own stuff, which pisses me off.
Yeah.
But when you actually take the time to write your own stuff, what is kind of the initial feeling you get when you hear people singing your things back to you, like your music back to you?
There's nothing better. There's like, it's amazing. It's amazing. And even down the road after the band was done and whatever, I had some CDs and my bonus daughters would like beg to like listen to that in the car and sing along, and I'm like, oh my god, shut up, I don't want to hear myself. But inside I'm like, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing in the world. They are singing the song that I wrote, that like I, you know, came from me. Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely.
Now, do you think that, as far as like, because as bad as this may sound, there are literally only two songs specifically that I remember that were originals. Do you remember what the purpose was behind those songs? I believe it was Playing the Victim and Breaking Point.
Yes.
Wow, I can't believe I actually remembered that.
So good. I was singing it last night after I saw your post. After a time hop, like, brought me back. I was actually messaging Chris, the guitarist, because I was like, "Hey, do you still have our recordings? I want to listen." So, Playing the Victim was about someone that I was close to and their ex. So it was like what I watched them go through and like the personality of the ex, which then played very true in what would have been my future as well. Breaking Point, I'm like, gosh, I'm trying to like remember the lyrics. Yeah, I sing them.
I love testing your memory. It's kind of fun.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was singing the other one, but I don't remember. I would have to like go back and like sing some of it, which I'm not doing right now. But really, like what I pulled from, like when I did write, was just life experiences. It was usually like a breakup type of a thing. I pulled from my childhood just because there was certain things that stood out and struggles that I had personally, and like, you know, like losing important people to me and stuff like that. So it was really all about life experiences and like pulling from them. So I know those two, you know, whether it was like, usually it was my personal experiences, but every once in a while I would watch somebody else's and like pull in from that and tweak it.
Now, if I remember correctly, we were coming into kind of our, I don't want to say formative years because we were already in our 20s, obviously, but in the infancy of social media, or back when it started, it was actually called social networking, which I think that it needs to circle back to that. But how important was social networking for you as an artist, to rely on or to use to get yourself out there and have people know who you were?
Right. It was pretty big. I think it was starting to get big then, with MySpace.
I miss MySpace.
And
MySpace needs to come back.
I know, I wish I could get onto it. But I think I just remember learning about like putting up pictures from our shows and recordings, and people like listening and reaching out and sliding in my DMs. And things like that, and just kind of playing the part. But I think at that point, then it started to like spider web out where, more people were listening to you or telling, like a bar owner about you, and you got more places and more fans and good stuff.
Now, when you and I were growing up, I think the most exposure we had to celebrities of any sort was the stupid ass tabloid magazines that were in the supermarket. One of the things I'm curious about with you being a performer, and in the age of, the infancy of social media when you guys were starting out, what is your opinion of celebrity presence on social media now versus when we were growing up, where celebrities actually wanted to maintain a personal life outside of the limelight, but now they have to be just as connected to everybody else as the average Joe? Like,
Right.
do you think that they should go back to having a personal life? Because honestly, I think there are certain celebrities that really should only use social media to promote their projects, because they are not necessarily the most well-educated individuals.
And you're like, shh.
Yeah. It's like patting them on the head and like, okay, go over into the living room and drink your juice and watch TV and just shut the hell up.
Stand still, look pretty. Not even that half the time. I think it depends on the person. Because for some, and I don't follow a ton of celebrities, but the ones that I do are typically pretty neat and share personal lives in a good way, and so they allow you to feel like connected to them and to their journeys, and their, like if they're sharing that they're struggling about something, then you're like, oh my God, you're like human. You're not, because sometimes it's hard to realize that, or you want them to be perfect. Other times, I think it just hurts them, and you're like, oh my hell, like just be quiet, or I'll be like, unfollow. I don't like you anymore. Like you just lost, So it's a good and bad, really.
I think what social media has shown us, I think the problem was when it went from being known as social networking to social media. I think when the media aspect got involved, I think that was the problem. But I at least now in 2020, I feel like there is, to use an old metaphor, the wall has come down, and or to use to use a metaphor from the Wizard of Oz, we can see behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And I think we are noticing how disconnected celebrities are from the average Joe.
Yeah.
And I think it's disgusting. Like, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for using this person as an example, but I think it was a couple months ago, Ellen DeGeneres made a remark when she was doing her show from home, how she knew how everybody felt because she was at home. She knew how everybody felt because it felt like being in a prison. And then she tried to make the joke of, because everybody around here is gay. And it's like, she simultaneously pissed off her audience and the LGBT community because she made such a disgusting remark. And it's like, this is why I think back when we were growing up, celebrities heavily leaned on their publicists.
Yeah.
And
we need more of that, though. We need more.
I think for people who are in the entertainment world, I just think that social media is a dangerous thing because it could go so right or so wrong. There's no happy medium.
Very quickly, too. One sentence and you can be done.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
It blows my mind how much they disregard actually thinking something through before they post it. Yeah. And bringing this person up, I know people are going to attack me, but I think they made a really poignant statement recently. Donald Trump made the statement in an interview that he's actually realizing how detrimental him using Twitter really is, because as much as he wants to circumvent the media and reach out to the people directly without being censored, he realizes that the things that he posts, sometimes for instant gratification, generally tend to backfire on him. And he actually said, you know what? When I'm finally out of office, I'm getting off social media. He goes, I won't be using it. He goes, it is so well. Yeah. I mean, I do think that he should rely more on people more that are a little bit more well spoken, because I think I understand.
Like, why is nobody helping him? Why is nobody helping?
I think his intentions are genuine, but I think especially with the generation that he's from, I still think that there is a very strong disconnect from what he's used to and social media. I don't think that older generation should really be that heavy into social media.
I guess.
But it's like, yeah, he's an odd duck. But I will say that, I mean, there are definitely celebrities that I think need to rely on their handlers. Bette Midler being one of them. Have you ever seen how disgusting and mean she is on social media? Like, oh my god. Well, you're not on Twitter, so I understand that you probably.
I know I'm weird. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Twitter.
You would be hilarious on TikTok. Like,
I feel like I could do it, but
you definitely should get on TikTok. That would be awesome. But like, it's just, I don't understand why a celebrity thinks it's right to get on social media and just be the most vile version of themselves.
Because that's their real version, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. It goes back to, seeing behind the curtain.
Yeah, it's the non-filtered version. That's the problem, is that the real version of them is coming out, and it
Yeah,
should have just stayed back.
yeah. It's kind of that whole, to use something that helped create the country that we have, separation of church and state kind of thing. It's the same concept of separation of celebrity and average Joe.
Right.
Oh wow, I got off on a tangent there.
That's right. That's what this is for.
It's fun though, but okay, yeah, I just blinked. That's not good. But what are you still writing today? Like, do you still, even though you're not active in a band, are you still writing today?
I don't have like a notebook of things, but every once in a while when I get time alone, which is super rare for me because I am my mom and stuff,
Yeah.
I sing. And so sometimes I'll just like create something, and then every once in a while I'll like get my phone out and be like, okay, record so I can remember it. I don't know why. It's not like I have a band to bring it to.
Right.
But I do have some stuff recorded on phones and stuff like that, just because I'm always creating something up there, or like singing, like literally you will say like a sentence, and then in my head, music will be playing. Or sometimes if like you're my husband, I just do it out loud. Like my cousin's wife is expecting right now, and they were having a gender reveal, and her name is Jolene. So
Oh wow.
my husband was like, yeah, and he always forgets her name for whatever reason. So I'm like, yeah, Jolene. And he's like, oh yeah, and then naturally
Yeah.
the song came out,
Dolly
and I was
Parton.
like,
Yeah.
sorry, I had to. It just comes out of nowhere, like at any point, any time of the day, there's a
that
song playing.
when there are songs that include people's names, I always feel bad for those people.
Yeah.
And I think the song that comes to mind most frequently when I think about something like that is Mambo Number 5 by Lou Bega.
Because they're just like,
Any poor woman who has that name, I just, they're destined to have that song sung to them at some point in a public setting.
There's a Shania Twain song that's the same thing. She just like lists off names.
Really?
I love it.
I haven't heard Shania in a long time.
Love me some Shania too.
Yeah. So being that the kind of theme of this episode is the music of motherhood, explain to me the journey from leaving the band or deciding to break up the band and coming into motherhood. What's the journey from point A to point B, and how does music play a part in your life now as a mother?
That's a lot, and I don't know where to start. When we ended the band and decided to go our separate ways, I was kind of at a turning point and going through a lot of stuff in my life and emotional struggles and whatever, and ended up going back to school. So when we stopped, then I ended up moving away to Boston, and going back to college to get my bachelor's degree. And that is where I met my ex-husband, and then got the rest of my family. So
Yeah.
my bonus daughters and my Harlow and Memphis.
Hmm.
Um, and so do you want me to like go into any parts of that, or
Well,
do you want me to just
well,
go
yeah.
to
I mean, I'm curious. Um, what the journey was
the
from,
music?
along the line or along the way.
Yeah.
Um, just because I feel like, at least for me, I can always find a song that
Hmm.
that I connect to at any specific point in my life. So I'm curious, um, as well as explaining the journey from music to motherhood. What kind of music helped you along the way as
Yeah.
well?
Um, I know that when I went back to college and stuff, I got more into like country and that feel of things.
Mhm.
And so when I lived after college, I moved to Idaho for a few years. Um, and I was really craving music. I've always craved it. I still crave it
Mhm.
and miss it. And I was thinking about like maybe looking into getting into a band. I started like looking up those ads, right? Like back in the day, and some social media stuff. I talked to like a few people, but then
Yeah.
life just got in the way.
Mhm.
Um, and I started at one point guitar again. I've picked it up and put it down many a times because the thought is if I can play guitar, then I can make music. I
Mhm.
mean, I can create. I've always created. I'm definitely I love to sing like acoustic as well, but
Mhm.
if I could just like jam out on a guitar and create some music, that's been the love. But life keeps getting in the way, so I never really followed through with any music personally, just listening to music. Um, but I did. I stopped going to concerts for a while. My ex was not into them, and
Was
so
he wasn't into music?
he wasn't into concerts. Yeah.
Oh, it was he human? Like,
I tried so hard. Uh, we
what
would like
person?
fight. I don't know. I don't know. Especially like for me, because I loved it so much and was like
Hmm.
so passionate about it. And so I look back and that's crazy that I stopped. But yeah, the last concert I went to back then was like Bon Jovi throwback. But it was always a hot mess trying to do those. So then I just stopped going and I stopped singing and I would listen to music. So it got me through some like really hard times.
Hmm.
Been a few hard years there.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember like playing guitar or showing my bonus daughter Presley was taking up guitar for a little while, and I remember sitting there trying to show her like how to strum the guitar,
Hmm.
and so now she and her dad, my ex will say that she got her love for music from me, which is
Hmm.
like such an honor, because I think I just always like brought that to the table. We're always listening to music. I'm always singing. My son yells at me all the time for singing. Like, excuse me. I was in a band once. I was cool once. Um, but we're always, like listening to music. And sometimes it was like different stuff or older stuff that maybe their friends weren't listening to or whatever.
Hmm.
But I've always had music in some kind of way, even if I wasn't creating it. And I bring that to my kids, and some of them connect with it and some of them don't. They have other creative outlets and stuff. Yeah. But my
um,
son's name is Memphis, and
yeah.
everybody always asks, um, like, did you live in Memphis, or like one of my bonus daughters' name is Dallas, so
Hmm.
I mean, no, not Dallas. Well, her too, but Presley. So
Yeah.
people ask if I'm like an Elvis fan, and there's like this Memphis and this Presley connection and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, No. But truth is, his name is from Gone in 60 Seconds, Memphis Rain.
Oh.
But Walking in Memphis has always been a
Mm.
favorite song of mine since I was younger. Like literally as a teenager, I wore like blue suede shoes because I loved the song so much
Yeah.
and like all this stuff, you know. So I always tell people, well, it's actually from a car stealing movie, but it's I fell in love with the name because of Walking in Memphis, the song.
Hmm.
So that is his song now.
Yeah.
And we sing it together. I've sang it ever since he was growing in my belly. And he still sometimes asks me to sing it to him at night.
Yeah. Um, as far as the Elvis connection there, um, had you heard recently? Because, or actually, I think it happened right after I started this series, that Lisa Marie's son took his own life.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
I don't. I think it was like a week ago. Um, there was a report that Lisa Marie's son had taken his own life, and it shocked me. Like I had forgotten she had an older child.
Yeah.
Um, but there's one thing that I'm curious, and it's something that I've always heard throughout my life, related to music. Um, I want to state it correctly. It's when you're happy, you hear the melody, or I think it's when you're happy, or you hear the music. When you're sad, you understand the lyrics. As far as as far as what you're comfortable talking about, um, when it comes to loss, what is there certain music that you gravitate toward to just
Yeah.
kind of heal?
I think that one started just when I was like young and like losing grandparents and stuff. But what we have not touched on, since I have said my Dallas, my Presley, my Memphis, and there's my Harlow, who was stillborn the year before my son was born. Um, and so music has helped me with my grief process and her. Um, so, You Are My Sunshine is definitely a song that's like a trigger for me, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because she was like this like ray of light in my life. Things were hard. So when I found out that I lost her, um, I was listening. I had been listening to that song and like I would sing it to her and stuff like that. And then after my loss, I realized there's another part of it besides like the one that everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about loss and grief. Um, and it's like the other night, dear, while I was sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, I was mistaken. So I held my head and cried.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, not until after I lost her did I hear those lyrics. Um, And so that song is one I will sing. I'll sing for her.
Mm-hmm.
But I always get emotional sometimes when I sing that part too. But that's the part that means the most because that's so realistic to me because,
Mm-hmm.
um, when you like have all these hopes and dreams for like a human being that you're growing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I gave birth to her and I held her in silence and I sang her the song.
Mm-hmm.
Like those kinds of things hit hard. So music has definitely been a huge process
Yeah.
with my grief personally.
Um, have you ever been? Because obviously, with the whole reason I started this series, um, have you ever kind of very strongly felt a sense of loss with an artist that you were connected to that passed away?
Oh, geez.
Like, I think the earliest for us would have been Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. I still, I mean, I love me some Kurt. I would, when we lost him though, I wasn't, like
We were
fully
young.
invested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people do the like Michael Jackson thing. For
That
me,
that I
I'm
think
a
that shocked me, I think.
right.
But I think that I had always thought that because of the way that he always looked, like his health, I always knew that his health might have been an issue.
Right.
So I think it was always just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Whereas there are,
Prince is like one that I'm still
yeah,
upset about. I'm still upset
yeah.
about that one.
I think there's a difference between being affected by the death of an artist and then just completely being broken
Yeah.
because you feel like, you know, you are now disconnected from something that you were so strongly drawn to.
Right. Right. I mean, I'm lucky though, because a lot of the people that I've like carried with me are still around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For musicians, I'm trying to think of, and I might just be drawing a blank, but you know, I haven't had any like devastating,
Yeah.
ball my eyes out loss.
I know we just recently, which really shocked me, we just recently lost Charlie Daniels.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere.
I mean, there's
And
a lot of people that you're like, oh my God. I mean, just like the Chester thing, you know, you're like,
yeah.
are you serious, dude? Did you see this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just blown away. But
I think, and one of the other things with Chester passing away was, you know, not several, but a few months prior to him passing, he had played, he had sang at Chris Cornell's funeral. And then he took his own life on what would have been Chris's birthday. And that just kind of, I think that shook me.
yeah, I think it shook a lot of people. I mean, like the world.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't realize how connected you are to somebody until something extreme happens to that person.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I'm curious to know your thoughts on, as far as the majority of the content, the whole reason that I created my YouTube channel was because, you know me, I'm a social person. I love having conversations with people, but I think it got to a point that I started to really wonder what made people tick. I started to be very curious about people, and I wanted to figure out where this disconnect was happening. So the whole purpose of my channel in general is I always say, to understand the human condition and to understand where humans are in their own head. And I think specifically with this series, you being a musician, I'm curious what your thoughts are as far as music being able to bridge that divide. And, you know, no two people go to a live performance for the same reason. Like they go because they like the music or they like the artist, but they all have their individual reasons for going. And the one thing that has always been common, at least in my eyes, was nobody ever gets criticized for their personal reasons for going to a concert.
Yeah.
everybody that's at that concert just embraces each other because they're all there for a common interest.
Right.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are as far as music having that ability to bring people together.
I think music can do that, not even just for concerts, but just like in general. Can you imagine like a world without like live concerts? It's so
We're
sad.
seeing it right now.
I know, it's so sad. I'm like miserable.
Yeah.
I do think that because it's music is therapy too for a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, whether it's something like angry and like or fun and free or emotional or whatever. Like you said, everybody goes for their own separate reasons, but they're there for that one thing. And so I think music is one of the few things that can do that, though, and like where you can have this hugely diverse crowd that wouldn't typically hang out or be like, hey man, you know what I mean? Or, yeah, like go ahead. They probably wouldn't even look at each other sometimes. And then you bring them to a concert and they're out there like, even with like the tailgating beforehand and stuff, people just like hanging out or connecting or doing whatever. And then you come into the show and you look around and like everybody's, maybe not everybody, but lots of people are like singing the words or just like in awe of this whoever, if it's one person or a group on stage, and just present, which is really hard to find nowadays, people being like truly present. But yeah, it's just like it does bridge that like diversity and like just throw all the bullshit away and let's enjoy this whatever magic is up on the stage.
Exactly. Do you know, between you and your friends or you and your family, has there ever been a song that you can recall where you and another person listened to it and you both enjoyed it but got different messages from it?
I mean, we typically don't talk, I guess, about the like emotional connection to it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know that I've had that conversation, to be honest.
Well, the whole reason I bring it up is because as I was creating the framework for this series, I'm sure you know System of a Down, the band.
Yeah.
There was an interview that the lead singer Serge did, and he did the interview solo right after it had come out in a story that one of his band members had different political views than the rest of the band. And he decided to be a jackass, and he started speaking very ill about this band member in this interview. And he said, I don't understand how this individual can have the views that he has and still be able to perform some of our songs. And it's like, that just says to me, he doesn't understand that, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but in the grander scheme of things, it doesn't matter why Serge writes a song, because his fan base, or even obviously his band members, may connect to that song differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I've never heard an artist in any medium be that close-minded. So like when it comes to, I don't know how many originals you did with Prima Volta, but did you ever have a time where somebody came up to you and, explained how one of your songs spoke to them, but it may have been different from the reason that you wrote it?
Right. I mean, not a lot of people were were coming up to me and like pouring their heart out about like
Well,
what the
yeah.
song meant to them. But
I don't know.
I
There were some drunk people a few times that would try to pour their heart out to you.
I love you, man. They were just trying to get in my pants. Oh, there's a female on stage and she's
We'll
got.
we'll go into that for sure because there were some real doozy statements that were said to you. Oh my lord. This is why I stayed sober most of the nights, because I wanted to remember how foolish some of these people were and some of the just
Beautiful.
most outrageous shit that was said to you.
I love it. I love it. Sorry, we're talking about people connecting to my music.
Yeah.
Oh, they were
Yeah.
connecting, all right. No, I mean nobody ever like poured their heart out about like what it meant to them, but I'm sure that there's sometimes, like I was thinking about after you talked about Breaking Point and stuff, and like how angry, how angry, and like where that came from. I was definitely like thinking about that after our talk. But I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure some people had their own connections to it that weren't so specific, you know, from mine, and like being angry at like an ex-boyfriend or a parent or something like that, you know.
Because the difference to me is like, if you listen to Linkin Park in interviews, Chester and Mike will both talk about certain songs and why they were written, and it's completely different from how their fans interpret the music. But I think the beauty of how they approached their music, or how they spoke about their music, they never forced their fans to look at those songs in a specific way. Like they would explain why they wrote them, but they would never force their fans to connect to the song in that way, because they knew that it wasn't organic. They weren't organically, getting into the song, because they were being encouraged. And I think that was really the first time I had actually paid attention to the difference between why an artist writes a song and the interpretation that the listener has.
Right.
Even with back when, and I'll reference it again, back when we were growing up, when MTV was actually music,
I miss that.
we were able to see through music videos, a visual representation of the story that the artist was trying to tell. I mean, look at any one of Michael Jackson's music videos, and they were the most prolific music videos that exist, because he spared no expense when it came to telling his story. And I think he was a fantastic storyteller. And I wish that visual medium was still around on a larger scale, because I feel like people need to start connecting with music more strongly, so that they learn how to reconnect with themselves and reconnect with, the people that they claim to hold dear to them.
I think that you have to, like, as an artist, you have to let people, connect organically and like in their own ways. But God, that's so true with not really having music videos anymore. It's so rare to like get them, or like you have to search them out if you wanted to like listen to that story, because for some people that will connect them more. Some people need that visual. People like, I'm guessing you, and like me, that really like feel music. I don't listen to music. I literally feel it like inside. It's deep in there. And sometimes it's not even specifically music, right? It's like random things, like the freaking rustling of the leaves, or you know what I mean? The way the water's dripping, and it'll be like a beat, and I'll feel something or like whatever.
Yeah.
I love certain types of music make me dance. So it's just like gets in there and I go.
Yeah.
But, not everybody can feel it. And so maybe having that storytelling back will kind of draw people in a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper, because right now they just kind of listen. Sometimes it's like in one ear out the other, and they can maybe sing along, but they don't connect.
Do you feel like there may have been a time where the quality of music that was being put out into the mainstream just went to shit? Because a lot of people say that quality music hasn't existed in the last decade.
Yes. Yes to that.
I mean, there are
there's good stuff out there. I listen to, you know what I mean? I can listen to the radio and there's songs that I love, or there's songs that I'll download, or artists that I love. That a lot of times though, I've been watching them for a while, like Rihanna or something like that. But I think the like really good music and the stuff that like touches your soul is like, it's back there. It's like, I mean, even further back from like I listen to like old school stuff and I'm like, this is where it's at, man.
yeah.
And I love the 80s and like the 90s and all of that good stuff. But man, I feel like we're just getting more shallow with the depths that music's hitting.
I'm sure you remember when when we would hear about a new music act that was being promoted. The whole reason for a lot of local acts to be performing was so if they were in the right area, they could be discovered. And now I actually heard within the last couple of years that, the record labels that still exist, instead of looking for music acts that actually have talent, because of social media, they're looking for artists with the largest following. It's like that is why music is being, put in the shitter.
Yeah.
Because they're no longer focusing on the art of it. They're focusing on why people are following certain people.
Right. It's all about, what's going to get more money, more attention, more. I think that they want that like instant gratification now, and like, again, it's all about money a lot of times. And there's some good artists out there, but it's hard to find the artists that are like digging deep and like actually bringing meaningful music, to the front.
If you had to put it into your own words, what makes artists like Linkin Park or Alanis Morissette or Bush, what makes them capable of still staying relevant in a time where music has just been so watered down? Like, even until Chester passed away, even now, since he's been gone, Linkin Park is still relevant. What do you think sets them apart that helps them maintain their relevancy in the face of a changing an industry that changes at the drop of a hat?
I think that there's just that ability to connect with the masses. It's not just like some tiny little following, but I think because they have this ability to like put themselves all out there, and I feel like for those that I'm thinking of, it's almost like they wear their hearts on their sleeves type of an idea where they're just like, this is fucking all of me and I have nothing else to give and I'm not holding back because censorship or whoever is telling me to, or it's not going to get me a lot of likes or
Right.
whatever. But I feel like they just like they poured themselves into it, but I think they also listened. You know, I think life is really helpful for some people, and like going through life events. And I can't even imagine the kind of music I'd write right now after the few years or like many years that I've had. If I like really dug deep, but it's also like listening because I feel like a lot of times people are just like putting whatever they can out there and they're just like, okay, let's try something else. Let's try something else. So if you can like make that connection and putting yourself out there, but also like listening to what people want or like might connect with, and I don't know, like I don't really know what keeps them going. They're just amazing human beings and art that is hard to find nowadays.
Do you think that authenticity is something
Everyone's
that is
fake.
forgotten? Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I don't know if
Not everyone,
I'm
but
well, and even separate from any art medium in general, I think that I don't know that people understand how to be authentic anymore.
I don't either. I don't either. I think that that's hard to find because everyone's trying to please, with all the social media and everything. Back in the day, it was like you just be you and you put out, good stuff. Obviously, they're going to like listen to certain people, tell them what to
Hmm.
do, but they were still themselves and they were way more authentic than people seem to be now. And the way people change their personalities or their thoughts and views and I'm not saying that people can't change, but seems to be, I don't freaking know, like with the wind. Some of
Yeah.
these people, and you're just like, who are you? I just think that we lack this like connection with the artists, unless they're really digging deep for that. And I think, I don't know, I'm watching, my teenage girls trying to find themselves right now, and it's really freaking hard. Social media makes it hard. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure artists too, especially younger ones. I don't know.
Do
I
you
don't know what's
think
going on.
do you think our generation had had more of a benefit growing up without social media, or do you think that us being adults in the age of social media disconnects us from the younger generation and understanding what they're going through?
No, I think that our way is a better way. Um, that's the truth. I just moved to like a little country town, my hometown, country town, because I'm like,
Yeah.
my kid needs to get out and play in the woods or something. What's happening? Um, I don't, I don't fully get. I'm a. This is why I don't have like TikTok and stuff like that because I'm like I'm gonna like it and I'm gonna be on my phone more, and I don't
Yeah.
and I want to be present. I need to be more present, and that's one thing COVID has brought to my life. It's made me be more present with my son.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I think that we can connect with them just fine. I just think we're like, this is stupid. Like because
Yeah.
you're not making real connections. I dated until I got married to my now husband. I tried doing like online stuff and it's all bullshit. Like people are fake. Like you're not meeting authentically,
Yeah.
and they're like, so it's like there's a lot of friendships that aren't real just because a lot of it's like on social media and you can message anybody whatever you want, or you can like agree about something or like find connections. But then when you're in person, it's like a totally different thing, and all of a sudden you don't connect at all. So I'm like, how authentic is this like social media and like just texting constantly and whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's different when you're in person with people. That's why like the old friends, that's why we always say you pick up where you left off, because like years
Mm-hmm.
can go by. And if you connect with someone, then you're going to still connect, like,
Yeah.
like 5-10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they're having all these like false friends that will drop them, just like with artists too, it's like you think you know somebody, but you
Oh
really
yeah. Yeah.
weird.
Um, that's the one. I think that the friendships that I had prior to social media, I have to, if I'm being honest with myself, not a lot of them still exist.
Hmm.
And I think it's because people act a certain way on social media, and it's like, you're not that person.
Yeah,
And it's like,
fake,
if
fake, fake.
if that if social media is turning you into that, I want nothing to do with it.
Right.
Um, I don't understand. I mean, I'll admit, in the last 15 years, I've changed, but
Yeah,
at the same
I'd hope so.
time, well, yeah, I mean, at the same time, you have to in certain ways, but there still is that kind of general basis of authenticity that
Mhm.
you need to maintain, because I just feel like people don't I think the reason people don't understand each other is because I don't know if we
Ourselves.
understand ourselves anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I understand myself more than I ever have, but
Well, yeah.
I mean, but growing up and stuff like that, and I do see some of my friends getting lost in the social media world too, and I just wish that I could pull them out of, like that's not what life's about, right? Like you have families and genuine friends and things like that. And social media can be great because it has connected me with like people like you, and for being a lost mom, it's brought beautiful, beautiful humans into my life that have helped me through grief, and that help me still to this day because it's never ending. Um, and it's brought me some really cool friends. But there's people that get lost in it, or lost in the keeping up with the Joneses type of an idea.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's, like money and material things, and sometimes it's likes on, Instagram or TikTok or whatever, Twitter. I don't know what
Yeah,
the cool thing is right now, but
the whole concept of being hyper focused on
yeah, like
just
who cares?
just being acknowledged. It's like
Right.
I don't really want to fade into the crowd, but
Hmm.
I don't constantly need people to have their attention on me,
Yeah.
um, because that doesn't allow me to grow as a person.
Right.
Um, Going back to what you said about your your experiences as a parent bringing certain people into your life, um, explain, because I don't even know the full understanding of it. Explain to me um, what Yellow Mondays is, because with this whole series, I wanted to do interviews on Mondays because I considered it a Music Monday,
Yeah.
but there's a for you there's a deep another layer to it. So explain to me how that came about.
Okay. um, I'm like, oh, okay. I just got like emotional there for a second. I don't know why. As you can see, though, I am wearing yellow. There's
Hmm.
yellow. Well, there's like there's always yellow somewhere because
Hmm.
Harlow.
Right.
Um, so my daughter was due on a Monday.
Mhm.
And then when I got induced because I found out she was no longer alive, they induced me and I went into labor, obviously. Super scary, but
Mhm.
then I had her, and so she came on a Monday. And when they brought her to me, she was it's downstairs, in this like little yellow knitted gown that some church ladies in the area had made for this specific reason.
Mhm.
Um, and like, I'm sure that they had some pinks and some blues and then some yellows and whatever. So my midwife, I was at a hospital, but I had a midwife. Um, and so she brings her in this little yellow dress and bonnet and booties. And like, as she's handing her to me, and like, Patty, I love you. If you ever see this, that's my midwife. Um, she hands her to me, and I said, "Of course she's in yellow," because she was like my sunshine. Like I said, the sunshine in
Mhm.
the dark time. And
Yeah.
so her symbol is a sunflower, which I have on me somewhere. I don't know that you can see it very well in
Yeah.
here, but so there's always sunflower. So when she came in yellow, because I was expecting, they always do the pink for the girls and the blue for the boys. And I was like, of course she's in yellow. Like, of course
Yeah.
she is. Um, but that being said, so when I had to walk out of that hospital without my belly full of life and without my daughter in my arms, which is something that's so awful and so
Mhm.
weird and so against anything you've ever known, like your whole life, you're like, yeah, you're going to have a baby and then you bring it home. And not everybody gets to, right? So
Right.
I walked out of there and like true devastation. I've never known, I will never know anything harder in my life.
Mhm.
And people lose children tragically. This is just the way that I lost mine. So I know
Mhm.
I'm not
Yeah.
comparing my loss to anybody
Right.
else's, but
Right.
there's nothing worse than losing a child. We'll just put it that way.
Right.
So, so then as like the first week passed, it was like, everything I could do, and you feel that weight is so heavy. But then as a Monday goes by, it was like another turn of the knife. And it's like, oh my God, it's been 1 week without her, and then 2 weeks without her, and three. And you literally are watching the time pass, and it gets worse and worse as the time passes because you you feel further and further away from her and
Mhm.
less connected. Like now we don't have that life point together. I'm
Mhm.
not throwing her. I'm not holding her. My arms are aching for her. I don't remember exactly how much, sorry, she weighed, like, or she felt in my arms. And so we were at Old Navy and I saw these yellow canvas shoes and I was like, I'm, I'm gonna, I'm gonna get these because these remind me of Harlow.
Mhm.
They were like a Keds type of a look,
Mhm.
no laces. So I still have them, by the way. So I got those and I started like wearing them just because they reminded me of her. And
Mhm.
then and I didn't have a lot of yellow because yellow like wasn't a color that I loved then.
Mhm.
And but yellow was like her color. So then I ended up getting like more and more yellow. And I had a friend comment and they're like, they said something about I was like posting my pictures and like thinking of Harlow type of a thing. And
Mhm.
here's my yellow for Harlow, something like that. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you do this a lot on Mondays. And so somehow I don't know how like the name came up, but it was like Yellow Mondays. So just like like
Yeah.
the like we wear pink on Wednesdays or whatever the heck it is. Uh, so Mondays was like, okay, every Monday I started wearing yellow and like sharing pictures. And then other people started wearing yellow and
Mhm.
sharing their pictures with me. And soon enough, it got out and I started calling it Yellow Mondays. And I was like, share your pictures with me because I need I need that boost. Like, I need to see that people care, that she touched somebody's life besides mine, because it's unfair when like nobody gets to see the pictures of your newborn or your child growing up, right? So I want to know, or like I want to see her name or whatever. So people literally all around the world, like different countries, because I have friends from all over now, are sending in their pictures of yellow. I had people with like their like families sharing, like they all got together and like wore yellow, or people, their workplaces, they like had a talk with them, told them what it was about, and then like people at work are like sharing these big pictures of like all these people in yellow on Mondays, and it was like so uplifting. And then I had moms, lost moms, reach out to me, and they're like, thank you for posting this, because I wore yellow today and it helped my mood. Because I'm like, this is the thing, is I can't watch the Mondays roll by and count them and feel more miserable, because life is already hard enough right now trying
Yeah.
to navigate this grief journey. So it became a way, instead of like being miserable, to celebrating. So it was like, instead of another week without her, it was like another week of celebrating her. And then it became about celebrating not just Harlow, but all of the people that I was meeting who had losses of their babies. Some of them had names, some of them didn't. And all of a sudden we were celebrating them together, and it just got like bigger and bigger. And I made, I had like a support group, and I have my Instagram page where I share my journey of grief. But like yellows is like a way to celebrate these children, who have died, that we don't get to raise. But we want to celebrate them instead of watching those weeks pass without them. So just a little healing
Yeah.
every Monday instead.
Before as I was preparing for this episode, I was actually telling a friend about the whole concept of Yellow Mondays, and um, they reminded me how my brain works as far as um, being an entrepreneur, and also being very drawn toward nonprofit work.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me start thinking that, obviously, Yellow Mondays was, the initiative that started this all. But I'm curious, with all of the people that it's brought into your life, have you ever thought of creating like a nonprofit organization that helps, that, provides, can help mothers who have lost a child in similar ways, be able to cope,
Mm-hmm.
more fully? And last night, like, it was still kind of swirling in my head. I'm thinking you could actually start a nonprofit organization and call it, what was it? Harlow's Haven.
um, that's one thing I would really felt really, really strongly about, when her loss was closer. So now it's been 8 years. And I really wanted to do that. And then life took some turn of events. And so I've gotten further away from that. But um, that's something that I want to do in the future. It's just hard right now with the way my life is, and work, and a
Yeah.
child, and other help that is happening. But I do, that is my hope in some type of a future, um, is to be able to do that. I am also in the process of being trained to give back for a place that is actually doing exactly that. I just didn't create it, called Empty Arms. And my friend Carol is just an incredible human that I met in a retreat, a lost moms retreat. And So I'm actually training to go into the hospitals and help these mothers out. So they typically don't know ahead of time. Every once in a while, like for me, they knew that I lost the baby and then brought me in. Um, and we had these talks with the bereavement people. But sometimes you don't know, and sometimes they're lost during birth or shortly after. So eventually, when that training finishes, thank you, COVID, for ruining that. But I will be a part of a nonprofit organization that goes in and helps other mothers in the hospital while they're trying to navigate this bereavement of what they should do and which way to go. Not to like get into details, but like cremate, not cremate, you know what I mean?
Right.
Bringing resources to them for photographs because, after you have to walk away from these babies, you don't get any more pictures. So there's beautiful places. Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is one of them that creates all these like beautiful newborn photo shoots and stuff with babies. So I will get to be a part of a nonprofit that is in this direct area that I didn't really know about. I was in Idaho when I lost her, but I've connected with that nonprofit. But hopefully through them, maybe I can grow my own someday.
As far as, the whole COVID situation, the mothers that you're connected with, how, I mean, obviously, I don't want you to violate their trust or anything,
Right.
but as far as, social distancing and not being able to congregate with people, how are they managing not attempting to not get stuck in their own head?
Yeah. So the ones that I am closest to at this time, I have a very big group of people just because of having the support page online that I've stepped back from a lot, but the Instagram, so there's people through that, but the people that I'm really closest to have been the ones that I spent the retreat with, who are more vocal about it because it's more upfront, I guess, for them. But there's quite a few struggling right now. I think, and just in general, right? Being at home and having these fears, depression, anxiety, and just whatever struggle that you're carrying, it's like really doing a number on the emotional part in us all. So I know that people navigating their grief journeys right now are having a really hard time because there's a lot less of those like healthy outlets, to get us out of our heads. So I just see like a huge struggle right now, which is why I try to reach out as much as I can. I'm not always the best, but I try to reach out in any way that I can, whether it's a text or a message, or every once in a while there's, like video calls or something like that. Yeah, everybody's struggling right now, but the grief mamas, it's hard. And I think this is, I think, also where social media can play a positive role because there's nothing better than like in person and seeing each other and like talking things out and stuff like that. But at least if you do want to be connected to people that may know a part of your struggle, you can find them on social media.
As far as the whole, I mean, I know you're very well disconnected from the performance scene because you haven't been in it in so long. But as far as COVID is concerned, if you had to really put it into words, how do you see, especially with what they're having us do right now, how do you see going forward, how do you see COVID changing what you and I knew as going out to a public, a public square, so to speak,
Right.
to see a performance? Like, how do you see that changing? And do you think it's still going to be as impactful to be in person, or is it going to change? Is it going to change too drastically?
I mean, I hope that they're going to get that back. I think after the elections that we're going to see more things come back. I hope, at least, like, fingers crossed. One thing that I've liked is that, like, quarantine karaoke. Most people that I see on there, I'm like, wish I was Southern, because I'd be like, bless your heart. Like, no.
Oh my! I hear
No.
like as soon as I go out of my house, I hear that at least 5 times.
Bless your heart. I love that saying so much. My friend Cheryl. Okay. Angel mom. But I have seen some incredible people, which is like the only 3 people that I've shared on my Facebook. And so I'm really glad that they can stream their lives and, like, sing and jam, and people are watching. I know one, Delaney Taylor, who she's like, yeah, if you want to, like, come in my backyard while I'm on my porch, like, feel free, let me know. So people are, like, showing up on blankets. And man, she is such a talent. But I think there's just a huge disconnect. There's nothing like being live and like feeling all the parts, like you're feeling the lyrics, you're feeling the melodies and stuff, but you're also, like, getting that bass in there. And I don't know, like, I hope it comes back, because I think that's going to crush some music. Just got real dark in here.
As far as, the disconnect that we're all feeling right now because of having to social distance and whatnot, from the perspective of, somebody who is a songwriter and somebody who is an artist, and, somebody who I know loves having conversations.
Yeah.
How important, if you had to explain it to somebody, how important is the spoken word? Like, do you feel like that's what's going to reconnect us after all of this? And do you think that we are going to be so conditioned from not interacting that it's going to be harder to get back into that?
Yeah. I really think it depends on the person. It's weird. It's weird interacting with people now, and you're like, you get like anxiety almost. You're like, you're not wearing your mask or something like that.
Oh Lord.
So weird. But my God, I hope that people can still connect and, like, come back to it and want to see people face to face and, like, talk about music and meet the person, like, sitting in the row next to you, or finding out their story and why they're there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What conversation are you most looking forward to when public gatherings can happen again? Like, is there somebody that you're looking forward to reconnecting with?
Well, I want to reconnect with music because I miss my concerts. But there's 2 things that I think about with reconnecting. Sorry, lots of hair. There's lots of hair here. Because my bonus daughters can travel, so they're out of the picture, because if they couldn't, I'd say them. My trip to Africa got canceled because of COVID. It is pushed to next year. So I am praying that happens, because that's something that's really important to me for, that's like heart work for me. And doing outreach and helping others is why I'm going. There's a huge thing called Lift for Life. We don't need to get into that, but so that's something that I hope to like connect with the people that I'm going with and the people that I'm going for. Is like a huge thing for me, but also my best friend of my entire life. So, well, she's a little younger than me, so 38 years. She just moved to Alaska. And so it was just really hard because she left during COVID and I got to see her, but she was like in her car with a mask on. And I just want to like, I mean, we're going to visit at some point. Alaska is a place I've wanted to go for a long time. So once COVID's done, I hope to be going there and just being able to like laugh with her without masks on and like enjoy all of her, because it's just something that like nobody else can replicate.
Yeah. From the perspective of a musician and a mother, I'm curious just to kind of tie everything together with the way that you and I have seen people behaving since all of this started. What is one message that you want people and, you know, one thing that you hope Memphis takes away from all of this? Like, how do you want, what do you want them to know on the other side of this? Like, what do you want them to come away with? Like, what kind of knowledge?
Well, this is like such a like huge life lesson for a lot of people, because if they haven't been through a lot, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this just like rocked your world, right? But this too shall pass.
Yeah.
You know, and we can get through it together. I just hope that everyone can be more respectful and loving of each other. That might be like the hippie part of me, but it's just like, just come on, like leave all the bullshit behind. Respect, people have different views. You can respect that, you know, and just be more caring and like reach out. People are struggling right now. And I think that we need to be more supportive of each other instead of like breaking each other down. It's ridiculous. So I hope that, you know, my kid, I mean, I talk about differences, whatever it might be with my kid, and this is no different now. So I just, you know, life, be ready. Like life's gonna throw some crap at you, and you're just gonna have to go with it. Like, so do what you can, but you can still be a good person while you're going through crap. So
one last thing, your favorite lyric that defines, if you had to describe yourself to somebody with your favorite lyric, what would it be?
Oh my God.
The
music in the world.
I go deep with these things because I'm curious.
You're supposed to prep me for that.
It's better to be organic and catch you off guard.
The lyrics that are like me.
Yeah, like if you had to explain who you are today, what lyric pops into your head?
No, you can't say what lyric pops in my head, because literally Little Mermaid pops into my head. I'm like, I have like Little Mermaid stuff. Like,
well, I mean, if you really think about it, with all of us right now, well, yeah. But if you think about it, that's actually valid, because
part of your world.
Like, yeah, I want to, because we're all kind of inside, not being able to, you know, socialize. So, you know, I want to be part of your world. That's valid.
That's me right now.
Yeah, I like that.
That's so
Well,
ridiculous. Of all the
this,
music,
yeah.
Little
Well, this
Mermaid.
was fun. I'm glad we did this, and I
Uh,
definitely hope we get to. Depending on what series I decide to come up with next, I definitely hope I can have you be a part of it again.
Absolutely. I'm
So
always here.
this was definitely fun, and I'm hoping that if everything goes as planned, that I get to come up to Mass and see you at least before I'm 50.
Yeah. All right. We got some time. We got some time
Yeah.
because I'm older. Uh, hey, you always have a place to stay. It's not like totally handicap accessible.
I'll sleep on the porch. I'll
Yeah.
sleep on the roof. I don't care.
We got a
You
first
know.
floor area. It's fine.
Yeah. I'll rough it. We can do that. You know, we grew up in a time where we improvised, so I know how
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. No crap. I'll build you some stuff. No,
Absolutely.
always welcome. You're always welcome here.
I appreciate that. And likewise, I want you guys to come down here. Like, I don't know, or I don't know if you've ever been down this way in Virginia, but it's beautiful down here.
My brother lived in Virginia for a little bit, but I haven't been there in a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we need to make it a point to definitely reconnect face to face because it's been far too long.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So,
That'd be a fun little trip.
yeah. But I will see you soon. And yeah, this has been amazing. I enjoyed this discussion a lot.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. My
Yeah.
first go round.
I always love being somebody's first.
You
I'm
popped
going
my cherry.
on that note. Wow, things just got a little spicy. Now that I hope your husband doesn't kill me because you said that.
It's this. It's this.
I love it. All right.
All right.
We shall do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
I love
Be
you, Jen.
good. Behave. Love ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.